It had begun years ago. If you thought about it, you couldn't really blame any one specific person. All in all, circumstances, wrong decisions, and general bad luck all led to the same place. It's as if the universe conspired against him to get him to that one final destination. He came from a relatively wealthy family. He never really needed anything. His wishes were commands. All his life he found whatever he needed was supported to the fullest, and he was free to do what he wanted, whenever he pleased. He was the envy of many, and friend to few. Things changed quickly the older he got. Burdened by gratitude and a childhood that he now owed, choices weren't as clear-cut anymore. Several things came into play. He was no longer able to do what he used to. Boundaries were placed, trust was absolved, and any form of advancement was based on plans set by others and how well he followed them. His career was chosen for him, not in such a defined way, but with enough nudging to push him in the direction desired, while making it seem like everything was his choice in the end. Friends were filtered, life choices made for him, and opinions spelled out well in advance. He wasn't his own man, and rebellion seemed like the only escape. He stopped doing what was required of him and let go of the life handed to him on a silver platter. But all in secret, never out in the open. Straightforward conflict was never a choice. It was an unnecessary awkwardness, best avoided. Life on the edge was a lot more interesting. Soon, consequences followed. His grades dropped, his new friends abandoned him, and his family scorned him. He began looking for pleasures elsewhere. One bad choice following the other, all for the wrong reasons. His world crashed down around him, his life darkened, and the future seemed far too distant. So he gave in. He went back to the paths chosen and the futures decided. He gave in to what the family required and spent little effort fighting back. He surrendered without remorse. And in the latest of hours, when insomnia and despair paired up against him, he'd scream into his pillow until he was too exhausted to do anything. Sleep would soon follow, and a new, lifeless day would begin. A day he never looked forward to. When Susan came along, he tried again. Not because she made him, but because the pressure had become too much, and she was the easiest route out of the misery. He let himself go completely, gave in effortlessly, and was soon slapped in the face again. It all boiled down to this moment. He knew he had no one else to blame but himself. If only he had been stronger. If only he hadn't given up so quickly, so easily. If only he could turn back time. If only. Philip was washing his hands when he heard keys rattling. He quickly turned off the faucet, switched off the lights, and listened. A key pushed into the front door lock, turned, and suddenly stopped. Whoever it was knew that the door should have been locked. He cursed himself for missing this detail and held his breath. Slowly, the doorknob turned. The door opened, and a woman walked cautiously into the house. Philip picked the knife up from beside the sink and waited. When Tiffany turned the key, she instantly knew that something was wrong. For starters, she never left a door unlocked, especially not in a house she was assigned to. In her 15 years as a realtor, she had always been welcomed by the sound of locks to the turning of her key. This was new. Then there was the sinking feeling that a light had been on when she had walked up to the front door. The house was pitch dark right now, but she could have sworn she wasn't imagining it. She tried to convince herself that it was the headlights of a passing car, but it didn't work. Tentatively, she pushed the unlocked door open and walked inside. When she had first been assigned the house, she was exhilarated. The property was in a very posh part of town, and her percentage from the sale would be enough to help pay off her car loan. She attacked the project from day one, fixing what needed to be fixed, refurnishing what she regarded tacky, and polishing bits and pieces of the property that had been neglected. It took her 2 days, and when she was finally done, her supervisor was impressed. Unlike her colleagues, she always wanted to know everything there was to know about the previous owners of any property she was assigned to. The little bit of history she could collect helped immensely with the sale. She quickly learned that if the house was rich with memories, she could easily appeal to the new buyer's emotions. Play your cards right, tell a good story, and the client was like pudding in your hands. Unfortunately, there was little to know about the previous owner of her current project. A poor soul stupid enough to take out a mortgage on a house he already owned, then lose it when he couldn't pay back the banks. It was the perfect epitome of bad luck. She closed the door behind her and reached for the closet switch. Light flooded the living room, revealing every corner, lavishly furnishing the house with a warmth she had always found charming. Still, it didn't calm her down. Looking around quickly, she walked past the guest bathroom and the door to the basement garage towards the kitchen. A second before her hand found the lights, someone reached around from behind her, covered her mouth, and pushed her hard against the kitchen wall. She gasped and tried to wriggle free, but she was held fast, and the knife that suddenly appeared at her neck quickly forced her to reconsider her actions.
How about we try to calm down a bit?
She tried to mumble her consent, but choked on a sob.
I don't want to hurt you. I'm not even here for you. So listen carefully.
The blade pressed harder against her neck, and she could feel a trickle of blood where it cut the skin.
You're gonna walk out of this house, then head to Washington Street. Take a right when you get there, and the third house on your left belongs to the Crawfords. Do you hear me? The Crawfords. They're relatively old, so it'll take you a while to get their attention. Are you getting this so far?
Tiffany nodded quickly.
Good girl. When you're there, call 911. Report a break-in. There'll be 5 bodies here waiting for them. Tell them not to bother with the ambulances and they'll all be quite dead by the time they get here.
Tiffany's knees started to buckle, and she was pushed harder against the wall, stopping her fall. Tears flew freely now, and panic was slowly starting to set in.
Do you have a cell phone?
She nodded and kicked lightly at the purse she had dropped beside her.
Good. Then you'll leave without it. I'm assuming your driver's license is in there too.
Tiffany sobbed harder, moaning at the realization that her initial relief at being let go might not last very long.
Shh. Don't worry. I'll just hold on to it in case the police come any sooner than I'm expecting. Remember, I'm not here for you. The people I want to hurt are either dead or waiting to die.
Slowly, the knife dropped away, and the grip on her mouth loosened. She quickly dismissed her initial instinct to hit and run, assuming that the blade wasn't too far away. Pushing her luck might not be the wisest of choices, given the circumstances.
Now, Bill Crawford's wife is a nurse. So she'll take care of this until the cavalry arrives.
Suddenly, her hand was roughly pushed above her head, and she watched in horror as the knife stabbed into it. The hand on her mouth gripped tighter, muffling her screams. Her eyes stung with tears of pain, and she started feeling very faint. The hand across her mouth let go and slapped her hard, bringing her back from what she would have imagined could have been a comfortable blackness.
That's just to make sure you know how serious I am.
Her attacker quickly grabbed her hair and pulled her to her feet. She cried out as an arm wrapped around her neck, pulling her down the hall and towards the front door. She could have sworn she recognized the man brutally pulling her along, but she had little time to think about it as she was quickly thrown out of the house. She landed hard on the pavement, mistakenly trying to break her fall with her injured hand. She bit down hard on her lip to stop from screaming, afraid that it would just force her attacker to come out and finish what he had started. She slowly pushed herself onto her feet and began running.